Welcome back to Future Experience. Today, you've got a very special episode for you. One that dives into the greatest actresses of all time. And joining me, as always, is our resident film historian, Sarah Tao. How's it going, Sarah?
Hey, Mark. I'm excited for today's episode. Greatest actresses, this is going to be tough.
Right? This is going to be full of debates. And speaking of which, we've got someone who I know has very strong opinions on the matter. Joining us today is the one and only Simon Gallagher. Simon, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's great to be here, Mark. I'm ready to dive into this, but let me just say, picking a top 10? That's like asking me to choose between my children.
Yeah, I don't envy you there. Alright, let's kick this off. Sarah, why don't you get us started? Who's the first actress on your list?
Well, I think we've got to start with the Queen herself, Audrey Hepburn. I mean, she's iconic from Breakfast at Tiffany's to Roman Holiday. Her elegance, her poise, she was the epitome of grace in Hollywood.
Ah, Audrey. Can't argue with that. Simon, I'm curious. Do you agree with that choice?
Oh, absolutely. Audrey was one of a kind. I remember watching Roman Holiday in the theater when it first came out, and man, she just lit up the screen. But you know, when I think of all-time greats, I've got to bring up Katharine Hepburn. She was fierce, independent, and had such a long career.
Katharina Hepburn. Yes, 4 Academy Awards. She was so bold in her choices, especially in an era where women were often typecast. And the Philadelphia story. Don't get me started.
Okay, so we're off to a strong start. Audrey Hepburn and Katharine Hepburn. Simon, I can already tell your list is going to stir the pot. But let me ask you, Sarah, who's your personal favorite?
Oh, tough one. I've always had a soft spot for Bette Davis. Her intensity was unmatched. I mean, just look at All About Eve. She commanded every scene she was in.
Yeah, Bette Davis had that raw edge. You couldn't look away when she was on screen.
That was brilliant. She never played by the rules. I actually met her once at a film festival in the 80s. She was as tough as they say, but charming in her own way.
Well, Simon, you've met everyone.
Oh, you know, just a perk of being an old-timer.
Alright, so we've got Audrey, Katharine, and Bette on the list. Let's keep this going. Simon, who else is on your list?
Well, I've got to mention Marilyn Monroe. Now, I know what you're thinking. Iconic, yes, but was she truly one of the greatest? But I think people often underestimate her talent. Beneath the glamour, she had a real vulnerability that shone through, especially in films like Some Like It Hot.
Absolutely. Marilyn often gets reduced to the blonde bombshell stereotype, but she had range. Her comedic timing in Some Like It Hot is flawless.
Plus, you can't deny her influence. Even now, people are still imitating her look, her style. She was a true cultural icon.
Exactly. She had that star power that just doesn't come around often.
I have to say, another actress that deserves mention here is Meryl Streep. She's won more awards than we can count, but beyond that, her ability to completely disappear into roles is something else. Sophie's Choice? I still get chills thinking about it.
Oh, definitely. Meryl is on my list too. She's one of those actresses who just transforms with every role. What do you think, Simon? Does she crack your top list?
Oh, no question. Meryl is in a league of her own. But I've also got to throw in someone from the golden age, Ingrid Bergman. Her work in Casablanca and Notorious alone solidifies her as one of the best. There is this warmth she brought to every role.
Ingrid. Yes, a timeless beauty and talent. And speaking of classics, I've got to say, Vivien Leigh, Gone with the Wind and A Streetcar Named Desire. She was magnetic.
Oh yes. Vivien had such intensity. It's hard to imagine anyone else playing Scarlett O'Hara or Blanche Dubois the way she did.
You know, I once saw her on stage in London. Even live, she had that electricity. A true star.
Alright, we're rounding out this list. Let's get one more pick from each of you. Simon, who's your last choice?
I've got to go with Elizabeth Taylor. Not just for her beauty, but for her incredible range. from Cleopatra to Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. She was fearless on screen.
Yes, and her personal life was just as fascinating as her films. But she never let that overshadow her talent.
All right, Sarah, who's your final pick?
I'm going to throw in a wild card, Judy Garland. Her voice, her acting, and her resilience. She was one of the most versatile stars Hollywood ever had. The Wizard of Oz alone is enough to put her on this list.
Good choice, Sarah. Judy had a tough life, but she gave everything to her performances.
Okay, folks, there you have it. Our top 10 actresses of all time. Audrey Hepburn, Katharine Hepburn, Bette Davis, Marilyn Monroe, Meryl Streep, Ingrid Bergman, Vivien Leigh, Elizabeth Taylor, and Judy Garland. That's quite the lineup.
And I'm sure we'll get some angry emails about who we left out.
That's the fun of it, though. Thanks again to Simon Gallagher for joining us today. And Sarah, as always, a pleasure.
Thanks, Mark. It's been fun.
All right, listeners, don't forget to subscribe and let us know your top favorite in the comments. Until next time, this is Future Experience.